Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to Come Grow Spiritually with me. My name is Pamela of Unimed. I'm a social worker transitioning into holistic practice, and I have been on my own healing journey for well over 2.5 decades. And recently, within the last 2 years, I have completely surrendered to exploring my spirituality and walking that journey. And again, I've always been a spiritual person, just never really explored it. It wasn't encouraged. It was something I was actually a little fearful about and didn't want to talk about with people, or even with myself. And about 2 years ago, that changed for me completely. And every day for the last 2 years, spirituality has been a primary focus in my life. I wake up every day. I have spiritual practices that I do every day. I research something spiritual every single day so that I'm expanding and growing. And I've created this series to share it all with you all. So I'm not a guru, I'm not an expert. I'm inviting you to come along and learn alongside with me. So I'm sharing my research with you as I'm learning it and sharing my own spiritual journey in hopes that it will inspire you to do your own spiritual journey. And so that's the hope and the whole premise for this. So I'm not an expert, I'm not a guru, and I'm not here to tell you how to do things or what spirituality is. Because I don't really think anybody can, to be honest. And listen, there is a lot of people out there. There's people that I follow, there's people that I have in my personal life, in my physical life that have a lot more knowledge than me. And I learn from them. And I encourage you all to find those people as well. I am not an expert. I am simply somebody at the early stages of her journey that is sharing my journey as I walk forward and the learning that I have. And hopefully I do it in a way that's like easy to understand. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Sow-in. So I have been hearing a lot about Sow-in recently from creators that I watch and my spiritual communities that I'm involved in. And I was like, I've never heard about this before. What is it? So I'm here to share with you what Sow-in is all about, how you may participate and celebrate and embrace the energy of Sow-in. And then I'm going to do a second video that you'll also find on this channel where we're going to do a Reiki session to embrace that energy of Sow-in. So Sow-in is thought to be one of the most spiritually potent times of the year. So for anybody that's working on a spiritual journey or path, this is an amazing time for you, an opportunity to really expand, explore, release, delve into. So traditionally or originally or where it originated from is Samhain. Samhain is an ancient Celtic festival that marks the end of harvest season and the beginning of winter, which was always thought to be the dark half of the year. So it seems to have originated in Ireland and Scotland and parts of Wales. Spiritually, Sow-in sits at a threshold, a time when the veil between life and death, light and dark, and old and new is thought to be its thinnest, right? The veil has thinned. It is the thinnest it will be at any time of the given year. And so that's why it's thought to be such a spiritually potent time of the year. It is celebrated from October 30th to November 1st. Now, you'll hear a lot of people talking about October 31st being the day of Sow-in, but just like how the moon's energy during its cycles is most potent the day before, the day of, and the day after, whether it's the full moon or the new moon, right? It is the same for Sow-in, right? It's kind of amazing. The more you delve into spirituality and the cycles and flows of nature and the universe, you begin to notice patterns, right? So 3 days of the moon shift is when the energy is the most potent. Makes sense that Sow-in would be the same. It's the same around the solstice times. It will be the day before, the day of, and the day after where the energy is heightened. Okay. So what spiritually is the meaning and symbolism of Samhain. So Samhain is thought to be when the thinning of the veil happens, as we discussed. It is believed that during Samhain, the veil between the physical and the spiritual world is at its thinnest. This allows for communication between ancestors, spirit guides, source, to be at a heightened opportunity, right? Because as the veil thins, you're able to communicate more. More can come in and go through. Many people use this time for like divination, dream work, mediumship, and intuitive abilities are heightened. So if you're somebody who is spiritually connected to yourself and to source, you may feel that your intuition is heightened during this time. If you're somebody who recognizes that you have spiritual gifts or psychic abilities, you may see an increase in that stuff. You may actually even have those expand even further. So this is just a time of deep intensity where people who are connected and tapped in, and listen, every single one of us has these abilities and spirituality inside of them. And it's the more that you tap in, the more that you explore, the more that you have that connection and that communication open to the divine source, God, whatever you frame that realm, and that connection to nature, the more you will feel this, the stronger it will be. Okay, so a second theme is death and rebirth. So Samhain honors the natural cycles of endings and beginnings. It is the symbolic death of the year, leading to the eventual rebirth at Yuletide, which is your winter solstice. Spiritually, this is a heightened time that invites shadow work, release rituals, and transformation. Giving you an opportunity, inviting the opportunity for you to let die what no longer serves you so that you can open your hands to be free to plant new seeds in the darkness. So if you are feeling triggered right now, if you are feeling like stuff is just coming up and you're like, what the hell is going on? First of all, know that you're not alone. Second of all, know that this is the energy of Samhain that is bringing stuff up to the surface to say, hey, here's an opportunity. Pay attention to this so we can let it go. All right, another theme is ancestral connection. So ancient Celtics during this time would set extra plates at their table. They would set out foods and drinks to the departed. They would light candles. They would sit and try to connect and reach and have communication with their ancestors. Nowadays, those traditions are a little bit less, but what people do nowadays is they may build an ancestor altar, or they may just transform their altar by putting up pictures of their ancestors out on their altar. They may bring out heirlooms and carry them around, things that they normally wouldn't. People just pull out like old photo albums, or they connect with other family members and talk about the family history and their ancestors. It's essentially a time to honor your ancestors that came before you, that have paved the way for you to be where you are today, and just like honor your history and honor your lineage. Another theme is harvest gratitude. So because Samhain marks the end of the final harvest of the year, it's all about a time about giving thanks for the abundance, both materially and spiritually, that you have received over the year. This is a time for you to reflect on where you have grown, what you have harvested or obtained this year, and what you might be ready to release into the earth as we get ready to walk into the new season. The final energy or theme of Samhain is dark goddess energy. So spiritually, Samhain aligns with the Crone aspect of the goddess, the wise, mysterious, and transformative. All right, and goddesses like Morgan, Hecate, Persephone, and personally in my life, It's been Medusa recently. Hecate has brought Medusa forward for me and been like waving her in my face to say, honor her. This is a time that symbolizes death, rebirth, intuition, and magic. So you're being invited to explore a little bit with these goddesses. Now, again, like I said, Hecate, I feel connected with. I have an altar to her. I use her in my practice myself. But recently, I've been feeling that there's been this other energy. And I couldn't quite, I can't put my finger on it, right? It's not Hecate, but Hecate energy is still kind of there. And I couldn't understand what it was. And I was in the grocery store and I was walking along, and this woman was wearing a shirt and it had Medusa on it with the snakes. And I was like, I just noticed it, right? I don't know why I noticed this lady's shirt, but I did. So I continued on with my day. And then the very next day, one of the spiritual people, content creators that I watch, was talking about Hecate bringing forward Medusa. Hecate is bringing forward Medusa to work with you. And I was like, there's not a coincidence there, right? And again, I'm skeptical. I have that logical mind that interferes with my intuition. And I was like, and I don't always think, I do, but my first instinct is this is not my message when I hear a message. I need it to be proved to me again. And source is pretty good to me, right? So again, later that day, something pops up on my feed and it's about Medusa. And I'm like, well, this is strange, right? And it's not strange, it's just trying to get my attention. And source knows that I need that additional reinforcement because my logical, skeptical mind first wants to shut it down and be like, this isn't my message. But I assure you it is, right? So I have been delving into the energy of Medusa and been helping to work through some of my shadow energy over the last week. And it's been really interesting. So again, if you're feeling like these dark kind of energies, it could be an opportunity or one of the goddesses trying to say, hey, let's work together. Let's work together to help you heal, to help you grow, to help you move along your spiritual evolution. And if that doesn't feel right for you, that's okay. Some people think I'm absolutely nuts, and that's okay. That's okay. All right, so I went off on a tangent again, and I apologize. So let's move on. All right, so let's talk about some rituals and spiritual practices you can do if you are feeling called to observe Sow-in in a soulful way. So the first one we're going to talk about is having an ancestor altar. And again, this is simple, it's easy. You can bring out pictures of your ancestors, and if you don't have any, you can simply write their name somewhere. You can light a candle in honor of your ancestors. You can offer them an offering, whether it's like a piece of food, something like a crystal or something that's important to you, just a way to offer it and share it with them. Or I'm likely going to pour a shot and set it out for one of my ancestors, right? And then all you're really going to do is you're going to just take a moment, whether you've lit your candle, whether you have a photo, or it's just their name written, and you're going to speak their name out loud and express some gratitude. And you don't have to have known them, right? You can simply just express gratitude of thank you for care, thank you for your lineage, thank you for the lifetime that you lived and the information that you passed down, or thank you for just existing because your existence eventually led to my existence. And if you're spiritual and you feel like your ancestors are still around, which I personally believe, but I'm not telling you what you should believe. I personally believe that energy from people stay around. And you can just say, thank you for continuing to be a presence in my life. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for whatever, right? I personally know and feel that my ancestors have led me to have the strength that I have had in order to take the steps that I've taken in my life to break some cycles, to break some generational cycles that have been passed down through our generations. And that didn't just come from me. Like I'm not anything special. Their strength, their gift, their abilities, the pathways, and the stuff that they did led to the creation of me. And I believe that their continued strength gives me the strength that I need to be able to walk through and break those cycles. Because if you're a cycle breaker, you're going to know, like me, it's a hard fucking road. It's a hard road and it's a lonely road at times. Okay? So that's your ancestor or altar. And again, you don't have to have an altar. You can simply pull out a photo book and just take a moment and go through, or bring somebody up in your mind from your lineage and just be grateful for them. Just, thank you for existing. Your existence led to mine. Okay. Release and shadow work. So again, remember, this is an excellent time for shadow work. You may be being triggered. I know I have been. The way that you can do some shadow work release is to write down any habits, fears, or attachments that you have that you're ready to let go. And maybe you're not totally ready to let them go. Maybe you're just in the contemplation phase. But go ahead and write them down. Write them down and then safely burn them if that is an option for you. This is by burning them, what you've written down, you are releasing them in the energy through the smoke up to source in the universe to transmute on your behalf. If burning is not an option for you, rip it up. Rip up the piece of paper until it's into tiny shreds. And then you can flush it down the toilet, which is another way of sending it back to the earth. Or you can bury it. Again, the whole purpose is to write down what you're ready to release and find a way to release it back to the earth, whether that's through burning, whether that's through ripping up and sending down into the water or back into the soil. And then just take a moment after you have done this and take a deep breath and visualize yourself for one moment living your new life without that fear or without that habit. Okay? Moving on. You can do a bonfire or a candle ceremony if you have the ability and the safety time to do it. So in ancient times, entire communities would gather for Sow-in, and they would gather around a large bonfire to celebrate the end of harvest season and the turning of the year. So you can go ahead and do that with a community if you have access to one, or you can have a little bonfire just yourself and just take a moment to honor the ending of this season and the marking of the turning into the new year. You can also light a candle or a fire in your home and just take a moment to just sit and ask yourself what you're ready to release and what light you want to carry through with you into the winter. So I want security. So that is the light that I would be asking for myself. Okay. Divination and dream work is another way. So because the veil is thin, this is the best time of the year for you to be doing tarot, for be doing pendulum work, scurrying, and lucid dreams. So if you've never experienced lucid dreaming before, it's honestly simply like you just, before you go to sleep, invite a message from an ancestor or from a spirit guide. And it's just, you just make a request and say, tonight while I'm sleeping, I'm open and would like to receive a message from source, from spirit, from my ancestors, whatever they feel I need to know. And you go to sleep. It's helpful to have a journal next to you or something to write down with so that when you wake up, you can write down because it starts to fade. And maybe nothing comes, or maybe something does. Or maybe you wake up and you have a feeling. Or maybe you wake up and you're like, oh, I have a solution to something that was an issue. And I don't know where the solution came from, but I've got it now, right? Don't put too much pressure or stress on it, right? Just make the invitation and see what happens. Open yourself up. If you've been considering starting to learn tarot, now is an amazing time to do so, or pendulum work. Go ahead, or any spiritual practice at this point. If you have been feeling like you wanted to learn more about something, crystals, whatever it is, give yourself the opportunity to do so during this time, right? There's tons of resources, there's tons of books, there's tons of creators, there's tons of help through AI and Google tools. And listen, not everything you're going to get from any book, because you will always, the more you do research in that kind of way, you'll learn that sometimes somebody has this opinion and sometimes somebody has the opposite opinion, right? It's about just opening yourself up to exploring, learning, and then using your own intuition. What feels right to you? If you have two opposing views, what feels right to you? And then go with that. So this is a great time for exploration. So if you're considering something, I really hope you give it a try. And finally, the last energy of Samhain is about the Feast of the Dead. So what people will do for the Feast of the Dead is they will prepare a meal with seasonal foods. So the stuff that's in harvest right now. Where I am, excuse me, that's currently things like apples, squash, and root vegetables. And people will be baking bread and stuff like that. So you can go ahead and prepare a meal that is centered around the seasonal food that's available to you. That's a way to pay homage to the harvest. And a lot of people, when they do this Feast with the Dead, is when they're having that meal, they'll take a moment of silence or have a conversation with a past loved one. So celebrating their lives rather than mourning. So again, it's that whole inviting that ancestor back in, setting out a plate for them. And again, you do what feels right for you. There's no set way to do any of these rituals. These are just the guidelines that I'm providing for you, and you take it and make it your own. All right, friends. So that's it for me today regarding Samhain. I'm just grateful to have been given this knowledge. It seems like a really exciting, energetic time of the year. And as I said, I've been hearing a lot of talk about it over the last few weeks. And so I wanted to check it out. And so now I'm sharing with you what I have found. It sounds like an exciting time of the year for me. And I'm excited to participate in some of the rituals that we talked about. I'm definitely going to be have been being called to do some additional shadow work. Stuff is coming up. So we'll be doing some additional shadow work. I am going to take time to honor my ancestors and embrace them and try to connect with them. And I know that spiritually and psychically around some of the gifts or abilities that I have, there's movement happening right now for me. There's things that are coming up. It's expanding. So it's an interesting time. So I'm excited to be able to have the knowledge of what is happening at this time of the year so that I can participate it in a more soulful, mindful way. So I hope you also learned something from this today. And if you're going to go ahead and participate, please let me know in the comments which ritual or what you're doing to participate in it. And if you're interested, my next video will be a Reiki session in honor of embracing the energy of Sow-in, and so I invite you to check that out if energy healing through Reiki is something that is of interest to you. Reiki is absolutely non-invasive, gentle, and non-harmful. It is essentially it's just energy. It's energy clearing, it's energy expansion, and it's energy activation, so allowing you to receive the energy that is floating around in the atmosphere, essentially, during Samhain. And so, again, it's completely safe. You're in control. And all you have to do is just to be open to receive. That's it. That's all that's required on your part to participate in any kind of Reiki or energy healing session, is just your consent, because consent is important. And you just need to be willing and open to receiving. That's it. It's gentle, it's non-invasive, and I gotta tell you, I am so grateful for my soul sister who introduced it to me, because when she first brought it to my attention, I was like, you're a wackadoodle, but I'm desperate, so you can come over and play your voodoo stuff with me. It's not voodoo stuff, but that's where my mind frame was, because again, I am a skeptic, right? But really, after the first time that I experienced it, I was like, I noticed a little bit of a shift. Interesting. So it allowed me to continue to participate one or two more times to just kind of see, like, did I feel something? Did I not feel something? And then by the third time, I was like, oh, I love this. And I loved it so much that I decided that I wanted to be able to have this gift of being able to share Reiki with others. And so I did my education, and now I have been attuned, and I'm able to share it with others. And it's such a gift. It's so powerful. For those of you that are open to it, I definitely encourage you to check it out. All right, that is my plug for today. I'm wishing you a very blessed day, my friends. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your love and support, and I am wishing you a very blessed day.